Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Pagan's Witchy Corner. My name is Pagan, and today I am joined by a very awesome author, and that is Albert Björn Shiell. And I hope that I said that correctly, but like we were talking about before we went on air, I butcher everybody's witchy names. You guys have been around for enough of these episodes to know that I'm terrible with names, great with book titles, terrible with names. But Albert is the author of two books. One is upcoming, and the first book is Icelandic Plant Magic, and the second one that is coming out on August 13th is Icelandic Folk Magic. But Albert, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So your books were very well, I shouldn't say both books because I've only read the one, which is the Icelandic Plant Magic. But it was such a very interesting take on some of the herbs that we see here in the States, but also the kind of more Icelandic properties that we wouldn't normally see over here. So that was a really fun take to read that. And it was very informative, and I loved how you incorporated so many great different things and applications. And not just, the herbal applications, but also the spell applications to go with them. It was just a really awesome book and just beautiful on the inside as well. So, bravo for writing that.
Thank you very much.
So, Icelandic Plant Magic is also kind of one of those books where we do see some Icelandic magic books, but not that many. So what kind of made you decide to write this book and put it out?
Yeah, so it was sort of my COVID project because I'd been accumulating quite a lot of just random bits of my practice here, and then stuff that I've carried over from because I'm from Sussex in the UK.
Hmm.
So things I've carried over from there to here and how those things work together, and I'm quite analytical in how I do stuff. So I was comparing a bunch of stuff, especially plant related things and plant spirit related things. Um, and yeah, that this is sort of the like a accumulation of all of these notes on what I was comparing and what I was learning about these plants. Um, and I realized there's not a book specifically on Icelandic plant magic. So I thought, okay, I've got all of these notes. I could definitely turn this into something more than just notes. So then I sort of set about adding in different aspects as well, like things that I'm sort of correlating with other practitioners in Iceland,
Hmm.
and various bits of older sort of knowledge from books and manuscripts and Icelandic grimoires and things like that. So lots of translation went into that as well, which has taken sort of the biggest bulk of time, I think. But really, there wasn't something within this niche um, that I could see that was also accurate because there's quite a few mistranslations of stuff in more sort of mainstream Icelandic
Hmm.
stuff that you won't really catch unless you speak Icelandic well enough, which is obviously like massively niche because there's only 370,000 people in this country. So yeah, I sort of thought I should try my best to put everything that I had together into a book. Um, and then put out my sort of take on lots of these things, but also analyze the folklore and the folk magic of all of these plants as well, in a way that hadn't been done before that I'd seen. So yeah, that was concise for
That was very well
for
done.
me.
um, I also love the fact that you put a glossary of pronunciations within the book for people like me that are like, hey, I can read this in English, but that's not an English language. So, when my brain is like, hey, this is how that sounds, and it's like, no, brain, that's not how that works. That it sounds
It's a
completely
really
different.
tough, it's a very tough language.
It is a very tough language, and it's as somebody who works with the Norse pantheon and within it Norse mythology, it is a difficult language to try to get accurate. And I'm thankful that a lot of the deities are understanding and being like, no, it's fine if you butcher it, it's okay, we understand that you're trying. So um but I was really thankful that you put that in there because that made it a lot easier to kind of see those different translations and how they're actually supposed to be said, and make it a little easier for especially us western folks who have a harder time with those kinds of languages. So obviously you're from Sussex. How did you get involved with Icelandic magic?
Yeah, so I when I was in Sussex, I was learning about runes and things as well, and I sort of I've been going through like sort of different phases of my practice, and around what, like 3 years before, so 3 years before Brexit,
Hmm.
I'd sort of decided I'd had enough of living in the UK, and I thought, okay, I need to go somewhere. Um, so I came to Iceland anyway, just as a tourist, and I fell in love with this place. And then when Brexit came around, I'd been like by that point I'd been here for 3 years, so I was safe from the from the consequences of that, more or less. But yeah, I sort of picked up my life and moved here because it was really nice, and I could do that easily before Brexit happened. So I took the chance, and then I've just luckily fell in with the right people here, because it really Iceland is really small. um, there's like not really that many people within this niche that
Hmm.
talk, especially talking publicly about what they do. So I just found the right people, and since then we've sort of started a very makeshift coven of sorts,
Oh, that's wonderful.
and it's really nice. Yeah,
That's wonderful to kind of hear that, finding your niche and finding your people of sorts. Um, even if you have to move to a different country and all that. And it's interesting how that kind of works out, especially I I would say that a fellow practitioner, my coven would never have been born if it wasn't for the pandemic. We actually
mm,
were inspired out of the pandemic, and we're a digital coven because we're scattered all around we have one member who's in the UK, and then the rest of us are scattered around the United States. And none of us are within, reasonable driving distance of each other. So there's no way we can meet face to face, but we're still able to do all that we can through digital means. So I think it's really cool that you were able to find, your group, and obviously you had to go to a different country to do so, but I think it's really cool that you're still able to do that. It just shows that
yeah,
we have our connections everywhere, which is really cool.
exactly. Yeah.
So in the terms of obviously Icelandic folk magic and all that versus other different types of folk magic, how do they differ, say, from like Celtic folk magic or even American folk magic?
I think here it's so in Iceland, it's everything's been written down for a very, very long time, and even sort of information that people would not think is useful, um, has been written down since the settlement really of Iceland. It's like soon after the settlement, when mostly after the Catholic period came in and
Mm-hmm.
around the year 1000. So really, the most sort of like what we would think of as meaningless details have been written down, which is amazing because then you have this record of pretty much like nearly exactly how people were doing things. Obviously a bit of artistic flair on some of the recordings of things,
Mm-hmm.
and quite a Christian lens as well, because obviously lots of the people writing stuff down were priests. Um, but it's really unique in that there's so much folk magic that's been written down, and so much folklore as well, and sort of just the way that people related to spirits and the way that they sort of categorized them as well, and also the mechanics of how a lot of these spirits work. Um, a lot of this was written down, and especially also carried in stories and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been like really lucky that I've been able to, because I don't speak fluent Icelandic yet, but I'm getting better, and I'm good enough to hold a conversation, good enough to translate books from 1860 as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
nice. But I've been very lucky that I found found the right people, but then also found all the right information, um, that makes this place really unique. Because there's a lot of crossover with techniques, which is helpful as well
Mm-hmm.
to then for me to add Icelandic aspects to my practice as well. Um, but yeah, it's I would say it's unique, I guess, in how animistic it is as well, and how that's been a thing that's remained forever. Like people have always respected the rocks and the moss and things like that. And even if they're not looking at things from this like specifically like knowingly animistic perspective, they still have that to the way that they think about things, because they know, that we shouldn't dam up the waterfalls for hydroelectric powers. I mean, some have been, but And we shouldn't be stepping on the moss, and we shouldn't be moving rocks as well, because these rocks are home to the elves and things like that. And whether people believe that or not, they still have, whether they believe that elves actually live in the rocks, they still have this respect for the nature, and it's quite a important cultural thing here. So I think it's quite unique in that it's stayed, somewhat the same since people arrived, and especially the way that people think about spirits hasn't changed crazy much. I mean, it's changed obviously through time, but it's not as much of a disconnect here as there is in Europe. I mean, in Sussex even as well. So I think they're like, at least there are a few of the things that make it quite unique, I think.
I think that's very cool. Now, isn't Iceland, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I remember seeing, God, it was ages ago, but I want to say it was a documentary that I saw that they were talking about how I think it's Iceland, how they actually have laws that still hold protections for the elves and the spirits of the land. Is that Iceland, or am I thinking of somewhere else?
It could be. I know there are some laws here that haven't changed in a very, very long time. So it could be that. And also, even if that's sort of the base of environmental law as well,
Hmm.
that would be really cool.
I think it was something along the lines of environmental law. Like, well, I think it started as a very old law of, spiritual, I guess, preservation of sorts. And I think it has kind of transitioned now into more environmental law, I think is what they were talking about. I want to say it's Iceland. If it's not Iceland, it's Greenland. But
I mean, it could be. It
it
could
could
well be.
be, it could be both, to be honest. But I thought that that was a really kind of cool thing. And you know, even if all these different places, I know that there are some places in the UK, and like Wales and stuff like that that have those kind of um preservation kind of laws in place that have also spiritual context beneath them to kind of help
Mm,
support them as well, which I think is really cool. And I think I wish that a lot more countries would have those, but I know that,
mm,
that's kind of a I wish that's probably not going to happen in 2024,
mm.
unfortunately, because, capitalism. But anyway. um, so as far as, the practice goes, I think it's very cool that you are kind of helping preserve a practice and also introducing the world to a practice that may not be very well known outside of Iceland. So I think that's really awesome. Um, Now, as far as kind of going forward, obviously you have the book that's coming out this fall, which is the folk magic book, but do you have any other books that you're working on for the future that you kind of want to tease?
So nothing that I have any sort of contract or official interest in yet. But
Fair.
I am working on I am working on a Sussex plant magic book as well,
Oh, that would be
um,
lovely.
which I think would be quite cool because there's so many more plants there than there are here.
Hmm.
And I've been lucky enough to spend already this year like quite a bit of time in the UK, with family and stuff in my hometown. So it's been really good to go and see them, and also have that be an excuse to go to like specialist libraries and sit out in the nature as much as I can there.
I love
Um,
that.
so I'm putting together that and sort of building it back on what I was doing for what 10 years or so before I moved here anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so I've got quite a bit to. It's coming, yeah.
Well,
Hopefully.
I look forward to it whenever it comes out. It sounds lovely, and I mean, I absolutely love kind of learning about the different cultures and even the different magical cultures and plant cultures of other societies because, as a Westerner and as an American, we don't really get a whole lot of insight to a lot of that unless it's through people of those countries writing books, and we get those books here in the States because a lot of times we're not capable of being able to travel very much, especially in today's economy. It's really hard.
Mhm.
But, also having the capacity to understand where to go, what to look for, and having the respect and the reverence of those places is still very difficult in today's society. So, kind of getting a glimpse into that is really cool. And I'm looking forward to that book. Like I said, whenever it comes out, whenever you have it ready. So, that'll be great. Um, Now, do you have any book signings or classes that you would like to kind of promote and talk about?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be quite busy, I think, the next couple of months. So I'll be going to Olympia in Washington
Oh, lovely.
in at the end of June for the Viridis Genii Symposium. I'm presenting there about Icelandic plant magic.
Hmm.
So if anyone's interested in that, then check out the Viridis Genii Symposium website. And then I'll be in Chicago at some point after that in early July, I think, for the. I mean, nothing's set in stone fully yet, but
Hmm.
it looks very likely that that will be early July that I'll be in Chicago for the launch of at least the maybe not the physical launch, but the the spiritual launch of Icelandic folk magic. Um, but then yeah, I'm also I'm about to just about to in the next 2 weeks put out a course that I'll be running in August, a 6 week long course that's comparing and sort of dissecting various aspects of different Northern European folk magic traditions, and how it's sort of going to be how I piece together my Sussex stuff and my Icelandic stuff, and then also I spend quite a bit of time in Sweden as well, and my partner has a summer house on this island called Gotland, and
Hmm.
we go there most summers. So I've been doing quite a bit of work there as well, and then looking into the lore and the history of all these places and how you can find all of these common threads. And this course, this 6 week long course, will be in all loads of different aspects of that of special holy days and how they compare, and then certain workings and charms and spells and techniques, and giving people sort of a toolkit of northern folk magic, stuff that's not specifically tied to the land as well,
Hmm.
that's able to be done anywhere. Um, so that'll be coming at some point very soon. That'll be on my website,
Okay.
pellacrafts.com. Um, I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything I'm doing
Well,
in
that
the
is
next
definitely a good
next
amount of
while.
things. I have friends who are in Washington, so I'll have to let them know about your conference or whatever that you'll be doing in Washington.
Nice.
So hopefully they can check that out and report back about how awesome it was. Because I am far away from Washington, like almost 2,500 miles, so quite a ways away.
Okay.
Um, so, but I think that that's going to be super awesome. I'm excited for you to have all those really great experiences. So, everyone, if you are able to check out any of those events, like I said, I will have all the links to them in the show description. Now, most of these, I'm assuming, will also be listed on your website as well, correct?
Yeah, or at least on Instagram.
Okay.
That's where I update things most frequently.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Where can people find you on social media? Obviously, Instagram.
Yeah, so Instagram, I'm at Sussex_Pella. And then also my Patreon, this is the same name, Sussex_Pella. There I share a little bit more of my practice than anywhere else. Um, as well as I give people like 2 booklets a year that I make.
Oh,
I
lovely.
have those on my Patreon for people who join there, as well as a lesson. At least one lesson a month is the current schedule for that. Um, and then yeah, Facebook, Albert Björn Shiell is my Facebook name if people want to add me there as well. I'm being more active on Facebook of posting things there, because yeah, that's the one I use the least, but I should be using it the most because Instagram is becoming a bit difficult to maintain. Um, yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah,
So you're not on Threads or TikTok?
not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I've been told I should be on TikTok, but I don't know if I have the time and the energy to manage that as well.
It's a beast of lovable burden. Once you get used to it, it's not terrible, but getting used to it's the hard part, and making the time to record all the content and everything, and it gets to be a bit. So I understand the maybe not having time for it, but also it is beneficial. I find it to be far more beneficial than Instagram, but yeah, Instagram is questionable these days.
Yeah.
So, um, everyone who's listening, thank you, A, so much for listening, and B, make sure you are following Albert on all of his social media. The links will be in the show description, so you'll have an easy way to get a hold of him and check out all of his wonderful works. Make sure that you are able to pick up a copy of Icelandic Plant Magic, and this fall you'll be able to pick up a copy of Icelandic Folk Magic. If you aren't able to currently purchase a copy of either of those books when they are available, check out your local library, request a copy if they don't have one, because they'll be able to either purchase one or request one from another library. They do also, most libraries have digital services, so if you're somebody that's like, I really don't want to lug around a book, I want to read it on my phone, and as long as you're subscribed to that through your local library, which by the way is free, doesn't cost you anything, you should be able to also get a copy of those ebooks with them. Just make sure that it is requested by the library, and if all else fails, they can usually request it from the publisher if they can't get a copy somewhere. So check out all of those options. And Albert, thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful.
Thank you for having me. It's been, yeah, this, I think this is the most sort of concise answers I've given as well. So that's been really nice.
Well, that's a good thing. So there you go. But everyone, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.